Can I first say that Anika told me, "Oh, it's on a Tuesday, it's in San Francisco, nobody's gonna come." And this will never, ever happen again. I said, "No, it'll be packed. This will never happen again." You were wrong, and I was right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shaladeen, and on behalf of Dr. Anika Rana, I'd like to welcome you to the launch of her debut novel, Wild Boar in the Cane Field. And also thank you all so very much for coming here today and joining us on this very, very special occasion. Like you all, I'm so honored and excited to be part of this wonderful evening. And of course, I read the book and I loved it. So I wanted to quickly just give you kind of some a plan of what we're going to do. After I finish speaking for a little bit, we're going to see a trailer for the book, and then Anika's here. I feel like Vanna White. Anika's publisher, Brooke Warner of She Writes Press, is also here. She will be speaking shortly, and then we're going to meet the author, Anika. I'm going to ask her a few questions, which she's going to have to answer no matter what they are.
I studied the questions.
And then we're going to be treated to Anika reading some excerpts from her book. And then we'll have some time for you to ask some questions. If I don't like them, I'm going to object to them. And then we're going to end with a book signing, I think, next door. So get ready. Are you in your seats? You ready? Let's get started. I'd like to introduce Evan of the Bindery, who's going to tell you a little bit about the Bindery and what we're going to see.
Thanks for that. Hi everybody. Thanks again for coming tonight. I just wanted to actually get a raise of hands, if you don't mind, if this is your first time in the space. Wow, almost everybody. Welcome. Amazing. So nice of you guys to come by. The Bindery is a project of Booksmith, which is another independent bookstore across the street. Booksmith is a legacy business. It's been here for, I think, 44 years now. And the Bindery just opened as the first expansion just 3 years ago. So we're all very happy with it. Between the Bindery and Booksmith, we host about 200 events per year. You can check out our upcoming events at booksmith.com. Also, there's some printouts by the register if you want to take one with you. A couple things that I'm excited about that are coming up. It's closer. On Friday, we're hosting Salman Rushdie in Oakland with Andrew Sean Greer, and there's still tickets available for that. If you're interested, just let me know. And also, we're hosting Naomi Klein next week, also in Oakland. This Sunday, we're hosting Patina Gappa here in this room, and that's at 4 o'clock. What else should I say? Restrooms are through this door here, if you need one. Doors number 2 or 3 are all yours. Sydney's here at the bar. Please treat her well, and she'll treat you well, even if you don't, I think, probably. But and you can get books either in the front room or with Sydney. I think we've sold out of the ones that are in this room for now, so grab one if you need one. And also, I think if you purchase a book tonight and there's a special tote bag. If you haven't gotten it, you can just get one after from me. A tote bag. I think that's all for me. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me up.
So now,
congratulations, Anika.
thank you.
Now we have the trailer for the book, Wild Boar in the Cane Field. I'd like to now introduce Brooke Warner of She Writes Press. It's Anika's publisher, to say a few words.
Thank you. I'm a little tall, so can I raise this a tiny bit? Cool, thank you. Perfect, or I can just hold this, actually. Oh, fabulous. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. And it's my great honor to be here today to say a couple words about the book and about Anika, and also I do want to acknowledge today is her actual publication day, which is, yes. The book is officially born today. I have the unique pleasure, actually, of being Anika's editor and publisher. And when we started working together, it's probably been well over 2 years, early on she would often say to me, is this too dark? Is this too downbeat? Like the Kirkus Review actually called out. And I would find myself saying, yes, and I love it. It's okay to have dark stories. It's okay to tell real stories. And I had the privilege of going to Pakistan actually exactly 20 years ago, and I had never read a story that showcased so well some of the things that I had seen while I was there. I was actually there for 5 weeks with a friend who's Pakistani, and I found myself being so drawn into the story and so curious about Tara and the characters that Anika was painting, and the magical realism, which is another really compelling part of this story, and not easy to do. We talked about that quite a bit. When you have a really creative, outside-the-box story, to keep coming at it and to keep wrestling with it until it really works, and to be grappling with those questions of bringing it onto the page and wondering how your reader is going to experience it. And I just think it's an incredibly creative story, really unlike anything I've ever read. And I was then incredibly proud and happy to be able to publish it on She Writes Press. The entire book is an experience, and so I hope for those of you who haven't picked it up yet, you will. And I am grateful to be here, honored to be here actually, and just really congratulations to you, and what a really supportive community. And I think it's so important that we come out and support debut authors, but all kinds of authors, to celebrate their efforts. It's such a huge triumph to write and to publish a book, and so thank you. I'm humbled. Congratulations, Anika.
I'm not tall. Dynamite comes in small packages. So I'd now like to introduce my longtime friend, almost sister, and debut author, Anika Rana. Let me tell you a little bit about Anika. Things I can tell you about Anika. When she was 8, she moved to... When she was around 8, she moved onto a farm in Pakistan, which was a new environment for her, and she gathered a lot of information from her time there. She's lived in California for some 30 years. Today she lives in Redwood City with her beautiful family, husband Munim, and sons Nabil and Daniel, who I'm trying to find. Where are you? Over there. Who I know have been incredibly supportive of her. Anika likes to travel. She loves to visit her family in Pakistan, in England, in Spain. She hasn't taken me yet, but one day she will. The rest of the time she reads, she cooks, as all of us know, she cooks really well, and enjoys mystical music and poetry. She does whatever she can to make herself grounded and happy. I'd like to know what that is. She has been a loyal and true friend to me and many of you for decades. Getting all emotional here. In addition to being a very good friend, Anika is also super smart, but she'll never brag about it, so I'm going to. So Anika obtained a bachelor's and master's in English literature in Pakistan, a master's in English literature and composition from San Jose State University, and her doctorate in international multicultural education from the University of San Francisco. She's been an educator for many years, including teaching at Lums in Pakistan. She was a visiting lecturer at Stanford University, an adjunct professor at the University of San Francisco and the University of Santa Cruz, a professor of linguistics and dean of athletics.
Yes.
Did I write that down right? Learning resource library and learning. Okay, there was something with the athletics at Kenyatta College, the Bay Area Network Coordinator for the State Chancellor's Office, and the Interim Dean of Academic Support and Learning Technologies, and the Interim Director, Guided Pathways and Transitions at the College of San Mateo. Indeed, Anika has many, many accolades and achievements, too many that I can't mention here today, including that she was a finalist for the Mendocino Writers' Conference for the Shrine of Saint Machiavelli. That's a chapter from the book Wild Boar in the Cane Field. And why we're here tonight, she is the author of her debut novel, Wild Boar in the Cane Field. So you saw the trailer, and that kind of gave you a little hint of what the book was about. I read it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I felt when I was reading it that I was there. I could just kind of see what was happening. It was so vivid. So I'm not going to say anything else about the book. You're going to have to buy it and read it. Maybe you can get it signed today. But I did want to read two reviews. There were many, many reviews, but I wanted to read two just to show what the literature field is saying about Anika's book. The Kirkus review said, Rana is a vivid writer with a talent for evocative metaphors. Rana does a fine job of capturing the emotions of the characters. The Pakistan Daily Times said, Rana has woven universal themes of identity, love, and freedom into the fabric of rural South Asia in a manner that makes the lives of her characters vivid and poignant. In this richly imagined landscape, she places characters whose actions shock and enthrall us twice over. Her use of evocative metaphors creates a world that is simultaneously intense and bleak. This debut novel is truly an authentic depiction of the reality of rural Pakistan. Those pretty amazing reviews. So congratulations, Anika. We are so proud of you, and we're so honored to be here. Congratulations. So I have some questions.
As you told me.
But I didn't tell you what.
But you changed them on me?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my prerogative.
Yeah.
So what made you write this book?
So, thank you all for being here. I mean, I am really honored. I have to say that, and my heart is full today, and I'm not very emotional usually, so I won't show that much emotion. The only emotion I show is happiness. The reason I was thinking about this question of why did I write this book? You write a book and then people ask you why, and you think, yeah, really, why did I do this? So my mother lives in Longstanton near Cambridge, and she moved back from Pakistan. She lived in Pakistan for 50 years and then moved back to her home country. And my sister, who lives with her, said, "Mommy, do you know Anika's book is coming out?" And she told her the title is Wild Boar in the Cane Field. And so Mommy goes, "Did she write about the walks that we used to take in toward the cane field?" And my sister goes, "No, it's not about that. It's fiction." And so this is for Mommy. I did not write about those walks in the cane field, but I want to tell you about those walks. When I was 8 and living in Pakistan for the years that I lived there on this farm in the village, every evening we would have our 5 o'clock tea, and then the women and the children, who tend to have a lot more fun than the men, would go to the cane fields. We'd go for a walk in the evening to the cane fields, and we would take with us a metal bucket, a very uncool looking and probably cleaned, I don't know, bucket, and we would walk toward the cane fields, and on the way we would hear some rustling in those fields, and there was always this thing of, are there boar in those fields, or what's going on there? And generally there are boar in the cane fields, but we never ever got to see one. But one experience which I think is unique for anyone who has lived in the village, which I know those of you who have had cane in cities have had them peeled and diced for you, but people like Alia and Shazia know exactly what I'm talking about. You stand at the corner of the cane field and you say to someone who's got a machete, I think I want that one. And they will cut that cane, and then you use your teeth to peel the cane and bite on it and chew on it, and it tastes really good. So this was part of our walk. But the bucket was with us because when we got to the cane field, they'd usually be making sugar out of the cane, and then they would make toffee out of that sugar. So on our way back, we would have a bucket full of toffee with those with the cane sugar. And so that was the story that Mummy wanted me to write about. So I'm telling you about that story now. And I can't imagine that having that experience, why would I not write a book with the title Wild Boar in the Cane Field? So the title comes from that experience, but the book is all fiction. There are no pleasant walks in the cane field, unfortunately. So that's the answer to that.
Thank you. So your book has blended very well, good, bad, very dark. Why did you do that, and how did you do that?
Well, I wanted to make the story real, and I have, as well as all these what I call sisters lives, here with me. I have 3 sisters who I grew up with, and we're constantly sharing experiences that we have experienced, and our stories. My elder sister will have one version of it, and the middle sister will have a different one, and I will have a made-up version of it because I wasn't either aware of what was going on. And so what I wanted to do in this story is keep the stories as real as possible so that anyone who has or has not been to that part of the world can experience lives that are not usually written about. And the story of Tara, this young child who is found on a train, and Safiya, the lady who takes her in, and Bhagan, Safiya's servant, and Bhagan's 3 sons, Taj and Sultan and Malik, they all live lives that we really never see in any form of media. And I feel and 60% of South Asian population lives in villages. And very rarely do we see the lives of those people and what the realities are like. And so even though some of the scenes are heart-wrenching, there are moments of tenderness, there are moments of connection that I wanted to depict. So, as Brooke mentioned, even though it was so dark, it's so real, and I didn't want to whitewash it. I didn't want to change things and pretend that they were any different, but I really wanted to focus on the perseverance of these people in this story, that whatever is dealt to them, they will respond to it and they will find their way. And I keep returning to Pakistan and to the village and to the people that have inspired me to write this story. And usually nobody's really asking for any sympathy. It's more of an empathy about lives that they're living, and that was what I wanted to show.
So I love the cover on the book. How did you pick that? That's just my curious question.
Well, thanks to She Writes. I mean, that was we had, I think, about 12 or 15. There was and some of you I emailed and said, these are all the choices. Tell me what speaks to you the most. And one was a picture of you.
It may have even been at a girls' night out one evening.
It might have been that too, with a few drinks maybe. I don't know.
I don't drink,
but she doesn't need to. So this spoke to me because it's got this combination, and it spoke to others. As you know, those of you who know me, I always have to get an affirmation from others. So I did check in with everyone. What do you think? Which text? Which picture? And even people in Pakistan said, choose this one. So I've got a good group of friends. So that's why I have a good cover.
So is there going to be a follow-up novel?
I am planning another novel, and it is somewhat similar. It's also based in Pakistan. The characters are different, and I started this with the title, and I've already thought of the title. The title is A Sanctuary for Dancing Bears, and it's based on an actual sanctuary for dancing bears because of the recent legislation in Pakistan against bear baiting and dancing bears. The story itself revolves around this space which has a history of violence but has a space for peace. So, yes, definitely.
So, I was going to ask if your next novel will be on your friend Shella, but no.
Do you really want me to?
I want to be a heroine. Okay,
after
yeah,
the downbeat plot.
Be the upplot. Now we have the pleasure of hearing Anika read 3 excerpts from her novel. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to read, why you chose it?
Okay, thank you. So I've been thinking about this day, as you can imagine, for months. Maybe since the last year, okay? So what is it that I want you to take away from this? I would like to introduce some of these characters and show you a bit of the space that they're living in. And so the first piece I'm going to read is Tara is sitting with Maria, her childhood friend, and they're making a garland out of jasmine, or the local name is chambeli. Okay, so they're making this garland, and you get to see through Tara's eyes the surroundings and the house that she is living in, and you also get to hear her response or her perspective on the woman Safia who has taken her in. Okay, if I can find the place. Yeah, that's much better.
It's my day job.
So the chambeli bushes were at the entrance to Bibi Safia's house. The latch on the wooden door left a gap large enough for the cat to climb through. The gap defied any promise of privacy to the 2-step entrance, encouraging secrets to leak in and out of the home. I looked up briefly past Maria's short, scruffy hair, and the summer dawn view from the entrance displayed the village's 10 mud huts huddled closely to the left. To the right, expansive fields stretched to the horizon. Maria and I sat at the entrance of Bibi Safia's mud-covered opulence of many rooms that could have accommodated all the village families. The wooden windows and doors hung loosely in disrepair, like their decaying, formidable owner. Each room seemed isolated yet connected to the next with multiple doors and windows. Half-hearted printed cambric curtains partially obscured the view to each adjoining room, authorizing eavesdropping. The austere sequence of these rooms demonstrated for me the authority in Safia's own life, as well as her ability to control the lives of others. At unequal distances on the whitewashed walls of each room, a few unsmiling family portraits were testimony to her lineage and power. In her bedroom, her parents' marriage photograph hung at a slight angle. I dusted it each morning, leaving it at that angle as I gazed at the young groom, Bibi Safia's father, who stared back at me, one hand pulling back strands of marigolds from his brow. His wife, Safia's mother, sat next to him, leaving enough space between them for a third person who must have forgotten to join them. Her head was bowed low, a dupatta layered with a chadar covering it, pulling it down, restricting her from making eye contact with the photographer. Whatever I could see of Safia's mother was weak, unlike Safia. That's probably why she died when Safia had just started to walk. Amma Bhaga, only a few years older than Safia, was brought in to care for her. She must have hated that, but I admired her for doing what was expected. I know I would never sacrifice myself for anyone. And then we move on to learn a bit more about Amma Bhaga And Bhaga means fate or fortune, and it usually indicates good fate or fortune. But many of us know an Amma Bhaga. Amma means mother, and Bhaga is the name. And so here's a bit about Amma Bhaga and her life with her husband. And she's sitting, Tara is combing Amma Bhaga's hair and trying to relax her because something has happened in the kitchen. My combing had relaxed her. The twist in the story reflected her mood. So now it's Amma Bhaga talking. I had a thick braid and small feet, and that's why Sultan's father married me. He didn't see me before we were married, but when his mother came to see me from the village close by, it didn't take her long to convince him that I was the catch of our village. I'd heard this story, like all the others, about her light eyes, how her future mother-in-law thought they might be a bad omen. But when her husband-to-be looked into them on the day they were married, he said they were the color of Himalayan acacia honey. He said I had trapped him, Bhaga recounted, her eyes still shut, as if she needed to calm herself. Little did I know that his entrapment would be for such a short time. A rasp of sorrow caught at her voice. My husband would serenade me at night, singing, "O lover with light eyes, I will stay with you forever." Bhaga sat quietly with her eyes closed, but the romance she memorialized was short-lived. She didn't have to repeat what had happened next. I kept combing her hair. He didn't stay with her forever. Forever for him was 2 years. The day he left, never to return, Amma Bhaga placed 2 rotis covered with desi ghee in a red cotton cloth, along with a piece of his favorite gum berry pickle for him to eat in the fields. But this is where her love story took a horrendous turn. Tears welled up every time she told us about it. She took the corner of her dupatta and wiped her face. I waited for him that night. 3 days later, they brought back his body bloated by the canal waters. It had been caught in the reeds and scared the women washing their clothes. Their scream reached the village, and Lal Muhammad, the snake charmer, came to see what had happened. Lal saw the snake wound around my man's hand and went immediately to the canal's edge to urge it out of hiding. But, as if it knew what was in store for it, the snake remained hidden. So Bhaga and her mother-in-law both wailed over his body. They tore their dupattas off their heads and screamed to the heavens to avenge their sorrow, one for a young son and the other for her lover. Bhaga broke her glass bangles and began her iddat, the required days of seclusion after her husband's death, to ensure she was not pregnant. And so now we're moving to Tara. Tara, and this section I'm calling the proposal. It's a section of the chapter. Tara is sitting with Malik, who is the youngest son of Bhaga, and Tara's in a quandary and she doesn't know how to get out of the space that she's in. And Malik is the youngest son who cares for the buffalo, and he's on the spectrum. Okay, so we'll see how he responds to that, even though it's not diagnosed for him, and how he helps her out of the quandary. I heard a bus in the distance, and then closer, probably near the village, a dog whined, as if something or someone had hit it. Sultan would have made a good husband, Malik continued, in the same monotonous tone while he puffed on his cigarette. Sometimes, when I stay guarding the buffalo at night, or when I sit in that room in the middle of the cane fields, I think of him and think of our father. He was a good husband too. That's what Amma thinks. But he died before I was born. That means I didn't really have a father. He puffed some more on the cigarette until he reached the butt, and then he sucked on it, taking in the magic that gave him strength to vocalize his thoughts. This was the first time I had heard him lead a conversation, and I wonder what had encouraged him. Then, as if the power of the cigarette needed to be bolstered, he dug into his pocket and pulled out a bidi. wrapped in dried leaves. "This," he said, "is better," as he lit it, sucked on it, and handed it to me. I took a puff, not knowing how it would affect me, but by now I didn't care. Malik took the bidi back and continued smoking it, pausing briefly to add, "So you don't have a mother, and I don't have a father. Maybe I should marry you." The moon had risen high in the sky and shone directly on his face. Or maybe he had moved, or maybe I had moved. I wasn't clear what was happening. Was it only that afternoon that the Maulvi had come to finalize my marriage plans, when I had decided to take my fate into my own hands, but it still evaded me, and now Malik was giving me a way out? I could escape the destiny that others had chosen for me. I could create my own. We sat in silence until the bidi was finished. Something shuffled beneath the chameli bush. The white buds would blossom the next morning. Through the haze and darkness, they looked like flies in white funeral shrouds. I was back in that morning, the morning of the chameli garland, of the snake scare, of the pretend wedding, of the violent death of Sultan. The smoke and the fumes built up bile in my mouth. I didn't know where to turn, so I threw up. The potatoes and roti that Maria had shared with me were now all over the chameli bush.
Thank you. That was awesome. So, do any of you have any questions for Anika? So?
I do have a question. Thank you for letting us into the conversation as well. So, my highest regards to you, Anika, for having the patience to write all of this, and to your editor and publisher who perhaps patiently went through and critiqued.
Made sense of it, yes.
And although those roles are kind of theoretical for me, because I've never written anything or read, and like my learned friend here says, or read. My question is outside of your writing. My friend Munim,
Yes.
your ugly half.
Oh.
My very dear half of 30
he must
years.
have inspired you and been patient at times. How did he motivate you to embark on this journey and to end it?
He's always been a supporting sounding board, and sometimes he listens to those sounds and sometimes he doesn't. But I think anything I've ever done, he's always been there with me to kind of support what I'm doing and giving me ideas, sometimes, unsolicited ideas, and that kind of, you can imagine how that goes. But yes, Hassan.
Firstly, thank you for sharing your experience. It was really nice to hear. I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about the process of building the characters, given that although they come from the same place or region, they seem to have very different backgrounds and upbringings. So were there any characters that were more difficult for you to write about? Or what kind of research went into building these characters?
So, one, there is, and if any of you have this need to create or affiliate yourself with God in some way, this is your opportunity. You're creating a world and you're creating people. So it was a very pleasant experience. But the challenge, and I took many classes, I got a lot of feedback from Brooke of why is this person doing that, and why is another person, what they're responding in whatever way. I can't think of any character that was particularly difficult. My challenge was how to make sure that my characters were all unique and were not Anika in disguise. And so that was something, and particularly when you're writing in a language which is not the language, so I'll have phrases in here which are familiar to people like Ulukapata, son of an owl, but it sounds amusing when you say it in. So how do you use that terminology to demonstrate the personality without making it awkward? And so those were probably more of my challenge of how do I make the person say or act in a way that sounds authentic to the culture that I am writing about, and it's not, and here's what I wanted to be very careful, that it was respectful of the lives of the people that I'm writing about and not a caricature of their lives as you translate it into another language. Yes?
So thank you for inviting us, Sunita. Do you plan to translate this into Urdu for Pakistan?
I have not thought of it yet. This is the first step I've taken, so I'm not sure. I'll see what the interest is like.
There's a few people who live in Pakistan.
There are many people, yes. Definitely. Yes, Lisa?
I was wondering how you bridge that. I mean, because you just alluded to the fact that the people you're writing about are not necessarily like yourself, or like exactly the place or the situation that you came from. Does that feel awkward or difficult? I mean, could somebody say that you're, writing about a culture that's not you, or that a socioeconomic class that's not yours, or something like that?
I was very aware of that. I was very aware, and of course, as you're writing it, the words that I chose, I'd say, would Tara use this particular language or not? I was very, very aware of it, but I did try, however I could, to dig deep into the human element of, regardless of what social status you're at, that whatever conflict you're facing, that feeling that's inside you, regardless of your outward surroundings or the people that you're with, that whatever that feeling that comes from within, I was trying to be true to that, and also kind of thinking what the nuance of each character is. I didn't want anyone to be an extreme villain. I didn't want anyone to be a victim, and so I wanted strengths to come out, and I wanted the characters to be as whole as possible. So as I was telling the story, I was trying to create situations, and this is kind of the teacher in us. I was trying to create the situations where I could demonstrate the personalities that I wanted to show, or the nuance that I wanted to show in them.
Have you gotten any feedback, like from the kinds of people that you wrote about? I haven't read it yet. So.
Generally, the feedback I've gotten is about how depressing it is, and also how there are some tender moments, which I really made an effort to make sure that I could show the tenderness of life, as harsh as it might be. I've had some local feedback from folk in Pakistan, and they've said, I can just imagine, the kitchen being this way, an outdoor kitchen with the cow dung patties being used for making, the fire, or using ashes and straw to wash dishes. And so all of those small pieces, which were very much a part of my life, and kind of I observed and participated in. When I was living there, it wasn't as if I was living a different life. I was participating in all of I picked cotton with the farm workers. I made the dough the way, I sat with all the people doing what they were doing. And so that level of camaraderie happens, and I know those of you who have lived your life in a farm or a village, you have to mesh with the people that are around. You cannot separate yourself, because it just doesn't work. Because one, there's so limited people there that you have to connect with the people that you're with. So I hope that answers. Yes, Shafi.
So I have a question. Thank you for sharing. How did Tara?
Yes.
How was she come up with Tara?
So. Tara means star. Stella is another character that also means star. And so I needed a character who didn't have too many restrictions, and so as in family restrictions. So I wanted an individual that, even though she's surrounded by people who are either mother-like or sister-like or brother-like, but they weren't really that traditional, and this is a person who is in their own world and in their own mind. And so I can't answer why Tara and not somebody else. Why did Maria, who is the sister of Stella, why didn't she become the main character? Because potentially she could have. But I liked Tara's her attitude in life. She wasn't going to be a victim, and when I was writing, particularly when I got to that tail end of writing, kind of really focusing on refining the characters and thinking through them, I would be sitting early in the morning writing about these characters, and it's a very nice way to isolate yourself from the world around you, and you just think, why is this person doing this? And so for me, Tara was the one who would do all the things that I wanted to demonstrate and be the person in the middle of the story, to demonstrate how other people are not necessarily victims, but she kind of comes across as a stronger person from those around her. So that's a roundabout way of saying, I really don't know how I came up with Tara. Yes.
Hi, so I haven't read the book yet,
Yes.
but from your trailer and from the back of the book, we already know that the main character is going to die.
Yes.
So
There's no
suspense in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And generally when authors write, it's an open-ended thing. Why did you decide to share the end before we even started the book?
Because something happens after that, which I think demonstrates, and that the last section of the book is written from the perspective of the flies that have been around Tara all her life. And so I wanted to bring that element in, that even though the death itself is a tragic event, it is inevitable that we will all die, and I wanted the story to go past the death. So
it's not the end.
Yes.
So to speak.
So it's with this idea of it's generational. Yes, Jenny.
Well, I'm glad the flies came up.
Yes.
Because I have read the book.
Yes.
And I wanted to know, is there really a shrine, or did you make that part?
It's all fiction. There's a shrine for dogs. There are many shrines in Pakistan. There's a shrine for alligators in Sindh. I know Lubna kind of confirmed that, and she's actually been to it. So there are shrines, and this is kind of the mystic belief system that was a cross of religions and all of the different cultures. So there's no shrine of fly. I like the concept because if you've ever been to Pakistan, there are flies everywhere. So kind of the all-knowing, all-seeing, and the way the eye of the fly has a multi-perspective. So I wanted that to happen, and then the life continues, and the life has a short life, and then another fly is born. So that was why I wanted to use that. Yes, Jenny. On a funny note, yes, because I can see the smile.
After reading this,
yes.
I was sitting, and a fly came on my arm. I was thinking, normally you just do this, maybe you should let it sit.
Maybe. Yes, Corinne.
I haven't read your book yet, but I'm so excited. The characters, just from the portions that you read,
Yes.
seem that they're very, very developed. And so I have friends who are writers and tell me that the characters would actually speak to them as they were writing. Was that your experience?
I want to say it was, but I worked really hard at creating them. So I don't know. I haven't thought deeply enough about this, but as what I said earlier about that feeling of you're creating something, you've got things in your control, and you think this is what's going to happen because, what's the underlying reason of their motivation. I'm not ready to say, yes, they spoke to me. Maybe in the next novel they will. I don't know. Yes, Neelam.
When you talk about creating a character and making it sort of it's difficult to detach yourself and create a character that is not Anika. Is it like possible to create, especially the heroine, the main character, and not put in the qualities that you admire, and there's a little bit of Anika in
There's
that?
probably a bit of me in all the characters. And you will tell me. when you read the book, you will say the Malvi, Anika, is like you. But on a more serious note, when I was, whether it was the Malvi or the sons of Bhagan, whether it's a gender or a class or a, language or, whatever perspective, I wanted to be very true to, I wanted to have the sincerity about each of the characters, whether it's Isaac, who is the gardener, and he's a minor character, but I wanted to know more about Isaac, and whether it's Stella and, Stella's mother, and the trauma that she goes through with childbirth and how she ends up living her life, or whether it's the growth of Maria as a young child who's very close to Tara, and then as she gets older and starts working at the hospital, I wanted each character to have a life of their own. And so I really enjoyed getting into those characters and trying to think why they were doing what they were doing.
Can you talk about your writing process? Like, did you write in the morning, and for how long did you write every day? And also, did you ever feel like giving up?
So before I met Brooke, because Brooke was really helpful in keeping me going, I was taking classes, I was doing all kinds of things. I started with nonfiction. I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I knew I wanted to write, but I didn't know what I wanted to write. And so my memory is for 4 years ago at Kenyatta College, sitting in, I forget the room number, but behind the Learning Center, I remember talking to Rosa Serra and saying, this is the story I'm writing. And so once I had decided I wanted to write that story, and every time I'd go to the Mendocino Writers Conference or to the Grotto or any of these places, I seek, as teachers, we tend to seek classrooms. So that's what I looked out for, where can I learn the craft of writing? And then after, receiving feedback, for example, writing from the perspective of flies, I got mixed feedback on that. Do you really want to do that? Do you want to talk about dung? And I thought, dung is so much a part of Pakistani culture in the village. And of course, it's the stoves are covered with it, and then you use it for burning, and you use it for, it's all over. Why would I not mention it? So going back to the process of writing, I had very scattered thoughts to start off for the first few years, and then as I got closer, I thought, okay, I made my outline and this is happening. So this is something I would love to share with you, even though it hasn't been asked. But I am very pleased with this. There are 5 prayer times in Islam. And I wanted to bring in some of that cultural aspect. And the struggle was how to organize the chapters, how to organize the scenes. And so this is how I organized, and this helped me make the outline of my book. Before sunrise is the time of Fajr, so that's the first section of the book. Time of necessity is the time of Zohar, so that's kind of way in the middle of the book. 6 miles left, Asr, so before the sun sets. 12 degrees below the horizon, the time of Maghrib. And the red thread disappears, is Isha time. So I had then decided these are the times of day that I'm thinking about, and then within that I will try and work the plot so that those 5 times are integral to the story. So that helped me build the story. But the last piece, I think, I can't thank Brooke enough, where I had a deadline. I had to send her stuff. She would give me feedback, and she said, "Really, this? Are you sure you don't want to go deeper, or why?" So having that last 2 years or how many ever years that we worked together, that really helped me focus and have an audience that wasn't so broad that my thoughts would be scattered. So that was part of the process. Yes, Sean.
How do you come up with the names of the characters?
Yes, so the names, part of the name, Bhagan was, I had to have Bhagan. There was no doubt that Bhagan is a name that has to be in a book like this. Okay? If you grow up in Pakistan, you know that that's the name that goes in here. Some of the other names, Tara and Stella, the stars, okay, so they're reaching for something, and I needed, that concept of stars. Some of the other names I thought, okay, how do we name kids in Pakistan, and what are the names we give. And I also wanted to have names that would be easy to pronounce and remember. So I went back and forth with the names, and there was a time when I got confused with the names that I had given my character. And Brooke would say, is it this person or that person? I don't remember what name I gave that person. So there were some names I knew they had to be those names. Others I thought, okay, I need to make it convenient for my reader to understand who is what. Now, of course, Sultan, a king, Taj, and then Malik. So it's kind of crown. I'm pointing at my head. You know, Jenny. Taj is a crown, and Malik is the owner. An owner of. It's kind of. They all have some. Say that again.
Landowner, right?
Yeah, or any owner. Malik is owner of anything, but they all have. Sometimes they will have some relation to religion, but other times it's just meanings that. Yes.
Yeah, the way that you paint the picture of the character and what is happening was beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I misunderstood. What I understood is that you lived in the village until 8. Is that right?
No, I went to live in the village. I had gone to the village. It was a family farm, and we'd gone.
So you have experience.
I knew about it, so it wasn't that unique. But actually living there for 8 years, that is an experience that I wanted to write about.
Also, you had experience at
I
different
actually,
ages, the village experience.
I lived there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the characters, were you inspired by some people, the actual living characters there also, that you knew their stories? I think you always are inspired by people around you. All of these characters are pure fiction. But like pieces of the information.
Yes, so
it is from your experiences, the experiences you have seen.
Exactly.
You make the character out of those experiences.
Yes, and so to keep them authentic, they would have to be people who would have been able to live in that environment. So yes, so of course, yes, I agree with you that there is an impact.
My question was also that in your life you were inspired from different people, that you picked their qualities and stuff.
Exactly, I definitely have. There are some moments where people go, oh, you put that in there? Yes, I did.
Any other questions? One more.
So I'm just fascinated by the whole creative process. How many hours a day would you set aside to sit and write, or did it all come to you in one, big moment, and you spent all day writing? Or was there a discipline, like 3 to 6, I'm just going to...
I wasn't as disciplined as I would like to be, but we never are we? And so there was a time when I was getting closer to the end, I thought, oh, I'm nearly done. But like many of us, I would sit sharpening pencils, finding a place to sit, making sure that I have my little space, my desk, and I procrastinate by reading about writing. So, and I love doing that. I think I have to read about it before I can actually do it. But nearer the end, I was a bit more, and having a deadline and someone that I had to send stuff to made it much easier to actually write something. Jenny and Lonnie?
The magical realism was mentioned a little bit, and what I was really struck by is how you have worked it into the story so well that you aren't kind of like hit in the face with this. Oh, this is magical realism. It's just you get so sucked into the story that it doesn't seem like magical realism. It just seems to be part of the story.
So thank you for mentioning that, but I would also like to kind of remind all of us that sometimes the magic in the stories we tell, and depending on who's telling it, there's something where you think, oh, that happened this way, and you think, did it really happen that way, or did it happen the way that somebody else said? So I feel, and so thank you for kind of acknowledging that it worked. So that's good. But I feel that there's also a lot of that in life in general, as we always talk about. Lonnie?
Yeah, I just wanted to get a feel as to, I can imagine how challenging it may have been in the beginning just to start the book. And then as you realize that you have a deadline, did you want to give the end equal amount of time? I mean, because the end is just as important as the beginning.
I actually started with a scene that was supposed to be the beginning, but then it ended up being somewhere at the end. So I was all over the place as far as the story was concerned. There were scenes that I thought, I need this scene in there. And then how does that work? But once I had got a general outline of how it would go, I was able to work with it.
So I can't wait to read it.
That's great news.
Did you ever think about, since you spent a good amount of time in that village, did you ever think about writing it in Urdu or Punjabi and then translating it into English?
I wish my Urdu or Punjabi skills were that strong. They're not. I never learned Punjabi in school. It was whatever Punjabi we picked up at home. As all of you know, that's a problem in Pakistan. We don't teach our local languages in school. You learn Urdu. I know Urdu enough to be able to study Iqbal and Ghalib and all of that, but not to be creative. And in fact, that's what I realized having taught English composition for many years at, I forgot to remind you that I'm now faculty professor at CSM in all of the things that I'm doing. Sorry. That's all right. But being a teacher of academic writing, learning how to write creatively was like learning a new language. Because there's no thesis statement, there are no topic sentences, there's all of those things that become second nature. So even writing creatively in English has been a challenge for me. And I would imagine I should aspire to write in Urdu and then maybe Punjabi. I don't think my skills would be strong enough in Punjabi, but it's worth mentioning.
If a book club votes for this book,
yes,
would you come to?
Of course I would come. If you're in the Bay Area, and even if you're not.
Our book club usually reads a lot of converts, and they have tried to understand Islam and stuff.
Yes.
So I'm not sure that it will get voted, but in case it does, that's one thing, they want the author to come. So
I'll definitely come. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let's congratulate everyone. Thank you again. This has been such a special night for me. I am so pleased to have so many friends and family members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My request to you is just get someone to read the story. So whether it's in the library or other places, I think we sometimes get distracted with so many other things, and I feel really strongly about this story of Tara. So I hope you get to read it, discuss it, and kind of know a bit more about lives that we don't otherwise see. So thank you so much.